Oppose this budget, sir.
Well done. Alan Peachy.
Well, Mr Speaker, this afternoon we've heard three of the so-called heavy hitters of the Labor Party front bench on today's budget. And what has been particularly troubling to the country is that two of those so-called heavy hitters, Freudian slip, those heavy hitters are considered contenders for the leadership. Two of them are considered contenders for the leadership, and it will not have gone unnoticed how poorly they debated the economic issues facing this country this afternoon. And I'll make one prediction now, Mr Speaker, that the pair of them, Mrs Cunliffe and Parker, along with the yet to arrive and may not even make it here, Mr Little, will each have their turn at leadership in the next 3 years. And the only debate really is going to be in which order they're going to be anointed and how quickly they're going to fall over. You see, what is becoming increasingly apparent in this debate is how jolly difficult it must be to be a socialist at the moment. How extraordinarily difficult it must be to be a member of the Labor Party opposition. Because the problem that party has is that it cannot live down its past. However hard it tries, it cannot live down its past. It cannot escape the fact that this government has been in office for less than 3 years. It cannot escape the fact that in that time the economy of this country has been transformed. It cannot escape the fact that that Labor Party over there in 1999 inherited the best of times and squandered them. In 2004, and I invite the next Labor Speaker to get up and deny this, in 2004, New Zealand entered an export-led recession. And that government covered it up. It covered it up with continued excessive spending. It cannot hide from the fact that in 2000, for no reason but the fact that the Labor Party is a big tax policy party, it unnecessarily increased income tax and took money that New Zealanders were better able to spend for themselves. And what is troubling and what is coming out of this debate, Mr Speaker, is they want to do it all over again. And what the budget debate is demonstrating in spades is the failure of leadership of Mr Goff. And Mr Goff needs to explain to this House how it can be that in 2011, removing GST from food, from fruit and vegetables, can be a good thing. How can it be that in the late 1980s, when he sat in the cabinet that introduced GST, he accepted all of the arguments that GST, to be fully effective, had to apply across the board. And I asked Mr Goff the question, what has changed? What has changed between those years in the late 80s and 2011 that suddenly it is good taxation practice to begin excluding things from GST? Mr Goff needs to explain that to this House. What has changed? Now, in all humility, Mr Speaker, I could perhaps offer my explanation as to what has changed. And what has changed is we have a Labor Party leader under immense pressure from young, new backbenchers who are economically illiterate, who have no idea as to how business operates, who are desperately in fear that they will lose their seats in November and will be forgotten very quickly as one-term MPs. And so they are putting enormous pressure on Mr Goff to make what are basically inconsistent statements and ones that he knows he cannot stand by. The other thing Mr Goff has been unable to do, of course, is to explain how he will replace the $250 million that would be lost in government income with the removal of GST from those products. And that is the other dilemma that the socialists have. They want to spend, but they don't want to tell us where the money is coming from. And I invite the next Labor Speaker to get on his or her feet and tell this House how the $250 million will be compensated for. Or is Mr Goff just going to borrow it? Thank heavens we will never know, because Mr Goff will never have the opportunity to deal with that problem. Thank heavens we'll never know whether Mr Cunliffe's 4 pillars that he referred to today, trying to think what they were actually, I don't recall them as being particularly economically profound. He will never get the opportunity to find out whether it works either. Because you see, Mr Speaker, New Zealanders have figured it out. And what this budget debate has confirmed in their minds is the Labor Party has no future in determining the way this country will develop economically. No future at all. It is devoid of ideas, it is devoid of sound economics, and it is devoid of common sense, and as my wise colleague says, totally devoid of leadership. Totally devoid of leadership. And so what this government has delivered to the people of New Zealand is 3 budgets in sequence, each of which dealt with the particular economic circumstances of the time, each of which was well accepted by the people of New Zealand, and each of which, and above all else, I stress this point, each of which amounted to sound economics. And that's the bit that the Labor Party don't get. They don't get sound economics. Just as they can't figure out why in areas like Glen Innes and my electorate of Tamaki that I represent in this House, why in what they consider to be their strongholds, why the people are turning against them. And let me tell the House, Mr Speaker, why the people of communities like Glen Innes have given up on the Labor Party, why they do not see the Labor Party as holding the key to their future. And it comes down to one word: aspiration. This government delivers budgets which aspires for better for all New Zealanders, regardless of their circumstances, for all New Zealanders. And Labor MPs opposite will be discovering, in what they used to think were their strongholds, they will be discovering that the people have found them out. 9 years of failure, followed by 3 years of good economics, and it is in the good economics that the future of this country rests. Thank you, Mr Speaker.